Jonah 2 and 1. Go ahead and read it.
Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God.
Now he in the belly of the whale now. Can you imagine that? You in the belly of a whale? And the first thing he did was what? Prayed to his God. Because when you're in trouble, people don't even believe in God. You understand? But when they get in trouble or get sick and everything, who they calling on? They calling on God, ain't they? So when you get desperate enough, boy, you going to call on him. And then he'll make you so desperate, you be running to him. Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God. Go ahead.
Out of the fish's belly.
Uh-huh.
And said, Cry by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord.
Uh-huh.
And he heard me.
He said, I cried by reason of my affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Go ahead.
And he heard me out of the belly of hell, cry I.
Uh-huh.
And thou heard of my voice.
See, so the Lord, he took notice of Jonah, didn't he? Jonah tried to escape him, right? Threw him in the belly of the whale, and now, okay, what you want, Jonah? Now he crying to the Lord, ain't he? And Jonah knew this. He said, out of the belly of the whale I cried, and thou heardest my voice. Verse 3, go ahead.
For thou hast cast me into the deep,
Uh-huh.
in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed me about.
Uh-huh.
All thy billows and thy waves passed over me.
Skip down to verse 7. Go ahead.
When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord.
You see that? He said, when my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord. Go ahead.
And my prayer came unto thee,
Uh-huh.
into thy holy temple.
Go ahead.
They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy.
Skip down to verse 10. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonas upon the dry land.
Now, so I just want to get to that part where the Lord heard him, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Saw him too, didn't he? He knew he was on that ship, threw it right in the belly of the whale. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord. He communicated with the Lord. And the Lord heard him and had the whale to vomit Jonah on the dry ground. Not vomit him in the sea, vomit him on the dry ground. Now you see what verse 10 says. It said, and the Lord spake unto the fish. You understand what I'm saying? The Lord spoke to the fish. Look, let him go. And the fish vomited him on dry ground. But look, this is what I want to get to. Let's go right on into Jonah 3 and 1. This is what I want to get to really right here. Go ahead and read 3 and 1.
And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying.
Now he coming to him a second time. Now he got his attention, not only. Because sometimes God got to get your attention. You know, he done told you to do something, how you supposed to act, or what you supposed to do through the scriptures. You understand? You just ignore it. Oh, okay. Bow. He hit you upside the head a couple of times. Now he got your attention, don't he? And the word of the Lord came unto Jonah the second time, saying, go ahead.
Arise, go unto Nineveh, the great city,
Uh-huh.
and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee.
He said, go ahead and preach the preaching that I told you to do. Go ahead and read.
So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh,
Uh-huh.
according to the word of the Lord.
See, he got no problem with the Lord, what the Lord told him not to do. Go ahead.
Now Nineveh was an exceeding great city of 3 days' journey.
Uh-huh.
And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey.
He got up running. He got up running, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Jonah got up running. It only took him, it was 3 days journey, but he got there in 1 day. He must have ran, hey, Jonah, hey, and kept on running. Ran all the way there. In 1 day. That is something, baby. Put the fear of God in him, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
He knew it was from the Lord, didn't he? Put the fear of God in him. Go ahead and read.
And he cried and said, Yet 40 days and Nineveh shall be overthrown.
Now this is what the Lord told him to tell Nineveh. Now he crying telling them. The Lord gonna overthrow Nineveh in 40 days. The Lord know how to get you, know how to get him, didn't he? Go ahead and read. What verse you at?
Verse 5.
Uh-huh.
So the people of Nineveh believed God
Uh-huh.
and proclaimed a fast.
Go ahead.
And put on sackcloth from the greatest of them even to the least
See,
of
they
them.
believed what Jonah had told them. They believed the Lord, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
So they proclaim a fast from the least to the greatest. Go ahead and read.
For the word came unto the king of Nineveh,
Uh-huh.
and he arose from his throne,
Uh-huh.
and he laid his robe from him,
Go ahead.
and covered him with sackcloth, and sat in ashes.
Even the king fasted to the Lord, covered himself in sackcloth, took off his robe and put on sackcloth and sat in ashes. Because they believed the Lord. Go ahead and read.
And he calls
Through
it
who though? Through Jonah.
Jonah. Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
And he calls it to be and he calls it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles,
Go ahead.
saying, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything.
Do what?
Let them not feed
Let them not do what? Taste
Lord-
anything.
anything, brother. That's right.
Just like we read about Esther, no food and no water, right? When you fast, you ain't supposed to be tasting nothing. Let them not taste anything. See how he said man or beast, didn't he? Mm-hmm. He said, and he caused it to be proclaimed and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, saying, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Go ahead.
Let them not feed nor drink water.
Let them not feed nor drink water. This how you fast, ain't it? But you see how the Lord humbled these people, though? Well, they see how they humble themselves before the Lord. This is a decree from the king. They fast from the least to the greatest. And what happened? Go ahead.
Verse 8.
Uh-huh.
But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily unto God.
Not only are men going to be covered with sackcloth, but we're going to cover the beast up too. And everybody going to cry to the Lord. The Lord knows how to get you, don't he? He knows how to get men's attention. Go ahead and read.
Let them turn every one from his evil way, and from the violence that is in their hands.
So they understood, look, we got to turn away from our sins. And from the violence that's in our hands. We got to stop doing this. Because that's what you do when you pray and fast before the Lord, don't you? You turn away from your wickedness or your sins first, don't you?
Teach.
Then you come to the Lord and pray and fast before him. Go ahead and read.
Verse 9.
Uh-huh.
Who can tell if God will turn and repent
Uh-huh.
and turn away from his fierce anger,
Go ahead.
that we perish not?
Uh-huh.
And God saw their works.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. You see that? And God saw their works. And what did he do?
That they turned from their evil way.
Uh-huh.
And God repented of the evil
Go ahead.
that he had said that he would do unto them, and he did it not.
Why? Because what? They understood what Jonah must have really convinced them people, didn't he? Because the king said, hey, everybody gonna fast and gonna put on sackcloth. You understand? And the Lord, and then they prayed to the Lord. And the Lord saw them. Right? And he repented of the evil that he was going to do unto them. And he did it not. Now, let's go to Psalms, the 35th chapter. Psalm 35. This is food for thought, ain't it? This is food for thought. Psalms 35, and we're going to pick it up at verse 13. Psalms 35 and 13. Everybody got it? Amen. Go ahead.
But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth.
Go ahead.
I humbled my soul with fasting.
See, this is what you're doing when you come before the Lord. You humbling your soul. You humbling your soul. Read that over.
Yes, sir. But as for me, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth.
Go ahead.
I humbled my soul with fasting. And my prayer returned into my own bosom.
Now, he said, I humble my soul with fasting, and my prayer return into my own bosom. Let's go to Matthew the 17th chapter. Matthew 17. Matthew 17 and 14. 17 and 14. Because this is what you're doing when you coming, when you fasting before the Lord. You are humbling yourself before Him. And you petitioning or asking the Lord for something. You know, sometimes you got to take it to that next level, don't you? You know, you come to the Lord and ask Him, Lord, could you do this for me and do that? And He ain't, and you feel He ain't hearing you. You got to take it to that next level. And that's fasting. The Lord will see you afflicting yourself and everything, then He going to take notice to you. Because the book said, when thou fast, right? It didn't say if you fast. That means you got to fast at some point, don't you? Even when we keep the Day of Atonement, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed, the Lord command us to fast. But you don't have to fast just on the Day of Atonement. You can fast whenever you want to. When you want to ask the Lord for something, just fast to Him. Because He know you coming when you fast. Not if, when. I'm talking about the service of God, the true service of God.
Yes, sir.
When you fast. Matthew 17 and 14. Matthew 17 and 14. Go ahead and read it.
And when they were come to the multitude,
I'll tell you, pick up at verse 13.
then the disciples understood that He spake unto them of John the Baptist.
Uh-huh.
And when they were come to the multitude, there came to Him a certain man, kneeling down to Him and saying,
Uh-huh.
Lord, have mercy on my son. Have mercy on my son,
Uh-huh.
for he is a lunatic,
Uh-huh.
and sore vexed.
Go ahead.
For oft times he falleth into the fire,
Uh-huh.
and oft into the water.
Something really wrong with him, ain't he? Say he a lunatic. He falling off in the water and in the fire. Go ahead and read.
I brought him to thy disciples,
Uh-huh.
and they could not cure him.
He said, I brought him to your disciples, but they couldn't cure him. Go ahead and read.
Then Jesus answered and said,
Uh-huh.
O faithless and perverse generation,
Go ahead.
how long shall I be with you? How long shall I suffer you?
Uh-huh.
Bring him hither to me.
Now, because they couldn't heal him because they didn't have enough faith. You know, Jesus was like, how long, I'm going to be with you and suffer you. Bring him here. Go ahead and read.
Verse 18.
Uh-huh.
And Jesus rebuked the devil,
Uh-huh.
and he departed out of him.
You see that? And Jesus rebuked the devil, and he departed out of him. Go ahead and read.
And the child was cured from that very hour.
Uh-huh.
Then came the disciples to Jesus apart and said, Why could not we cast him out?
Uh-huh.
And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief.
See, they didn't believe that they could do this. He said, because of your unbelief. Go ahead and read.
For verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed,
Uh-huh.
ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place,
Uh-huh.
and it shall remove.
Go ahead.
And nothing shall be impossible unto you.
Ooh, wait a minute now. He said, and nothing. You understand what nothing means?
Teach.
He said, and nothing shall be impossible to you. Go ahead and read.
21.
Uh-huh.
Howbeit this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting.
Oh, he said, now this kind right here, it goes out by what? Prayer and fasting. So you got to do both of these in order to accomplish this healing that Jesus did. You got to do prayer and fasting. So a lot of times when we're praying for somebody or we're praying to the Lord for wellness or to heal somebody, we might have to take it to that level of prayer and fasting. Everybody understand?
Amen.
Verse 22.
22.
I'm sorry, verse 21 again.
Howbeit this kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting.
Howbeit this kind goeth out by prayer and fasting. We need both of this to accomplish this. We need prayer and the fasting to accomplish this healing right here, don't we? Let's go now. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 11 chapter, because some people ask the question, they ask all the time, you know, why do women why do women cover their head when they come to church, and why do men uncover their head when they come to church? Let's go to 1 Corinthians 11. I just threw this in here. 1 Corinthians 11, and we're going to pick it up at verse 3. 1 Corinthians 11 and 3. I just threw this in here. Because people ask this question, you know, why do y'all women cover their heads when they come to church? Well, this is why. Go ahead and read.
But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ.
Uh-huh.
And the head of the woman is the man.
Go ahead. Now, y'all women heard that, right? Go ahead and read. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ.
He gonna read it again. Look.
And the head of... Come on, brother.
Go ahead, man.
And the head of the woman is the man.
Uh-huh.
And the head of Christ is God.
Go ahead.
Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head.
Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you mean covered? That means you got a hat on or something, right? Or a cap or whatever, right? Go ahead and read.
Verse 5.
Uh-huh.
But every woman...
Because all of us are pretty much, most people are born with hair, aren't they? So we're not looking at no hair, because we're going to read something in this same chapter, because a lot of people try to say, her hair is her covered. We don't have to... No, if it was talking about that, then everybody's born with hair, ain't it? So you mean tell me every time I pray and prophesy I got to shave my head? That's not what we're talking about right here, are we? Go ahead and read, though.
Yes, sir. Back and forth.
Uh-huh.
Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonoreth his head.
Uh-huh.
But every woman that prayeth or prophesieth with her head covered, with her head uncovered,
yeah.
Yes, sir, dishonoreth her head.
Uh-huh.
For that is even all one as if she were shaven.
Now, wait a minute now. It says as if she were shaven. You know, if she has her head uncovered when she praying or prophesying, it's like she got her head shaved. So what is this telling me then? Does a woman, you know, like a man, when he praying or prophesying, he's supposed to have his head uncovered. Does that mean he got to cut his hair off every time he praying or prophesying? That don't make sense, do it?
That's right.
Because we all born, most people are born with hair, aren't they? That's the normal state of a man. They're born with hair. And a woman born with hair. So we are talking about something that's put over a person's head, or something that's taken off of a person's head, like a scarf for a woman, or a hat, or whatever. She has to cover her head with something, not a hat, because we all got hair. You understand? Well, I ain't got none now, but you know what I mean, right?
That's what the book says.
Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Verse 6.
Uh-huh.
For if the woman be not covered,
go ahead.
Let her also be shorn.
Uh-huh. So if the woman be not covered, let her be shaved or shorn. Go ahead.
But if it be a shame for a woman to be shorn or shaven, let her be covered.
Let her be covered. Covered with what? Like a scarf or a hat or whatever. Go ahead and read.
For a man indeed ought not to cover his head. For as much as he is the image and glory of God.
Go ahead.
But the woman is the glory of the man. For the man is not of the woman, but the woman of the man.
Go ahead.
Neither was the man created for a woman, for the woman, but the woman for the man.
Now y'all hear that, right? The woman was created for the man. Go ahead, verse 10. I ain't gonna get nothing started.
Yes, sir. Verse 10.
For
this cause ought the woman to have power on her head. Because of the angels.
For this cause ought the woman to have power on her head because of what? The angels, the fallen angels. Skip down to verse 14. Go ahead.
Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him?
Go ahead.
But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her. For her hair is given her for a covering.
Now we ain't talking about her uncover your head, or a woman cover her head up. We ain't talking about hair, are we? We talking about a scarf or a hat or something like that, right? Because we all born with hair. So that don't mean, like I said, if a man, he can pray and prophesy, he got to cut his hair off all the time. That don't make sense, do it? Because we seen Samson. Samson, his hair was long, wasn't it? And then when his hair was cut, that's when he lost his power, his strength, didn't he? So we talking about, this is why we have the women to cover their heads when they pray and prophesy when they come to church. Because of the angels. Which angels? Those fallen angels, those evil angels. Because the woman was deceived, not the man, right?
With that plane, brother.
Let's go now. Let's go. Let's show you an example. Let's go to Numbers, the 5th chapter. Numbers 5. Numbers 5, and we're going to pick it up at verse 12. Numbers 5 and 12. Numbers 5 and 12. Everybody got it? Go ahead.
Speaking to the children of Israel, and say unto them, if any man's wife go aside and commit a trespass against him, and a man lie with her carnally, and it be hid from the eyes of her husband, and be kept close, and she is defiled, and she be defiled, and there be no witnesses against her,
go ahead.
Neither she be taken with the manner, and the spirit of jealousy come upon him.
So he knows something up. You know what I'm saying? The spirit of jealousy comes over here. You know, she done laid with somebody else, you understand, and now he suspected something. You know, the spirit of jealousy come over him. Go ahead.
14. And the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be defiled. Or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled.
Now whether she defiled or whether she is defiled, is or not defiled, right? Skip down to verse, because we won't get straight to the point. Skip down to verse 18. Look at what, so he had to bring the woman to the priest, didn't he? Skip down to verse 14. Go ahead. Verse 18. Go ahead.
18. And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord.
Now, so he had to bring her before the priest, right? And then the priest going to set the woman before the Lord. And what he going to do?
And uncover the woman's head.
Oh, you see what he going to do? Uncover the woman's head. Taking her protection away from her. You understand? And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord and uncover the woman's head. Now, is he talking about shaving her hair off? He ain't talking about shaving her hair off, is it? Whatever covering the woman has over her head when she's before the Lord, or she praying to prophesy, because when you praying for prophesy, that's what you do. You before the Lord, right? You come into the church, you before the Lord, right? You're supposed to have your head covered. But you see the first thing he did? He uncovered her head. Now protection is gone. Read that over.
Yes, sir. 18.
And
the priest shall set the woman before the Lord, and uncover the woman's head, and put the offering of memorial in her hands, which is the jealousy offering.
Now we ain't gonna find out whether she's guilty or not. I just want to show you that when she came before the Lord, this is the first thing that the priest did. He uncovered her head and took her protection away. Let's go now. Let's go to Psalms, the 55th chapter. Because some might say, well, then how many times a day should we pray? Because people do ask that question though. How many times a day do y'all pray? So, you know, you can pray as many times a day as you want to. But we're just going to give you an example though of how many times David prayed in. Let's go to Psalms 55 and 16. Psalms 55 and 16. So we should at least pray this many times a day. 55 and 16. Like say, you say, Lord have mercy. You just pray to the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? And we say that all day. Some of us say that all day, don't we? Every day. Especially being in, well, I ain't going to even say that. Hopefully it get better one day. I'm talking about the traffic. Psalm 55 and 16. Psalm 55 and 16. Go ahead and read that.
As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning.
Hold it now. He said, as for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me. Evening and morning. Go ahead.
And at noon.
And at noon. How many times is that? 3 times, ain't it? So we should at least pray 3 times a day. At least. Go ahead and read. Read that over.
Yes, sir. Evening and morning and at noon will I pray and cry aloud. And he shall hear my voice.
And he shall hear my voice. So David said he's going to pray evening, morning, and at noon. And it just shows you right here what time they were dealing with what? He said, because we know the evening and the morning, that's the first day. Then he went to noon. Don't you got to go back to evening to get a 24 hour?
Teach.
See the cycle that they were using? Well, I ain't going to even talk about that 3 days, 3 nights, but we've been arguing about that all week. Cats still think they can get a day and a half out of 3 days and 3 nights. They can do it with a day and a half. And act like something wrong with me. I'm like, man. But anyway, let's go to Daniel. Let's see how often Daniel prayed. Let's go to Daniel, the 6th chapter. Daniel 6, and we're going to pick it up at verse 3. Daniel 6 and 3. Daniel 6 and 3. Go ahead and read.
Then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes, because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm.
Go ahead.
Then the presidents...
he must have really had it. The king must have really liked him, didn't he? Book say he had a good spirit on him, didn't he? Wish the Lord to say something like this about me, boy. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. And the king thought to set him over the whole realm. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find none occasion nor fault. For as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him.
Look at that right there, man.
Yes, sir.
You know, we read stuff, we just read right over it. You see that right there? He said, no fault. Neither was there any error or fault found in him. He was walking perfect before the Lord, wasn't he? Skip down, read verse 5.
Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God.
So now we're going to have to try to find something against Daniel now. But the only way we're going to find something is it's got to be against the law of his God. So now they're going to conspire against Daniel. Skip down to verse 10. Go ahead.
Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed...
I'll tell you what, let's go back. Let's see what this... Let's go, skip down, let's read verse 5. Let's read on. Go ahead.
5. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king, and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute.
Now they doing this. Go ahead and read.
And to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee.
Go ahead.
Save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions.
So anybody we find making a petition to any other god instead of this statue that we made, he's going to be cast into the den of lions. Go ahead and read.
Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writings, that it be not changed.
Go ahead.
According to the law of Medes and Persians, which alter it not.
Go ahead.
Wherefore King Darius signed the writing and the decree. Now when Daniel knew that the writings was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in his chambers toward Jerusalem. Oh,
you see what we're praying?
Yes, sir.
Toward Jerusalem.
Yes, sir.
Because didn't Solomon say, Lord, if we be in captivity in our enemy's land in a far country, we turn back towards this place, towards Jerusalem? That's why we turn towards the east. Because Jerusalem is east of us.
That's right.
You see which way Daniel turned? Turn towards Jerusalem. And we're not just necessarily turning to the east, we turning towards Jerusalem. Because we are west of Jerusalem, aren't we? So we turn to the east. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir.
What verse you at?
The middle of 10.
Go ahead.
He healed upon his knees 3 days a night. 3 days, excuse me, 3 times a day.
3 times a day, Daniel prayed before the Lord. 3 times, just like David did.
Come on.
So this is a good example for us, isn't it? That we should at least pray 3 times a day. Go ahead.
3 times a day, and prayed and gave thanks before his God. As he did aforetime.
Go ahead.
Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God.
Now they called him. They called him. Because remember, they made this statue. If we find anybody else for 30 days praying to any other God, we're going to cast him in the den of lions. So they called Daniel, right? Praying to his God 3 times a day. Go ahead.
Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not.
See, yep, it's true, you know, which altereth not. We can't alter this. So, you know, this thing is true. So whoever y'all catch find praying to their God within 30 days, we're gonna cast them in the lion's den. That's it. Go ahead and read.
Then answered they and said before the king, that Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah.
Now remember, they conspired against Daniel, didn't they? Because they said, you know, the only thing we can catch him in doing is something concerning the law of his God. That's the only way we can get him. But go ahead and read, though.
Yes, sir. Which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regarding not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day.
But making his petition 3 times a day. So they're watching him, aren't they? Go ahead and read.
14. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased with himself.
See, now he's sore displeased. He wish he hadn't signed this decree now. Because he loved Daniel. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Was sore displeased with himself and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him.
See, he gonna try to deliver him. But he couldn't. He had already made a decree. Go ahead.
And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, know, O king, that the law of the Medes and Persia is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. 16. Excuse me. Then the king commanded that they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of the lions. Of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, thy God whom thou servest continually, he will deliver thee.
Look at the king. He knew he had some understanding, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
He said, you know, Daniel, that God you serve. First he tried to deliver Daniel all day. Then they finally had to throw Daniel into the lion's den. He said, Daniel, that God that you serve, he will deliver you. Go ahead and read.
And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den. And the king sealed it with his own signet.
Go ahead.
And with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting.
Look what the king doing. He petitioned to the Lord now, isn't he? Now the king passed the night, he fasted to the Lord.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Neither were instruments of music brought before him. And his sleep went from him.
See, he couldn't even sleep. Go ahead.
Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste into the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel.
Go ahead.
And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions?
Go ahead.
Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever.
Now, you know, Daniel must have been a humble dude, because I wouldn't have been talking about no king live forever. You know, threw me into the lion's den. I'd be like, get me out of here. That's what I would have been like. Not no live forever. But anyway, Daniel had a good spirit on him, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
21. Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My God hath sent his angel and hath shut the lion's mouth.
You see that? My God has sent his angel and shut the lion's mouth. Because why? Because many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord shall deliver them out of all of them.
That's right, brother.
All of them. Go ahead and read.
Shut the lion's mouth that they not hurt him, that they not hurt me.
Go ahead.
For as much as before him innocency was found in me.
Go ahead.
And also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him.
Go ahead.
And commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him.
Go ahead.
Because he believed in his God. And the king commanded, and they brought thus men which had accused Daniel.
See,
and they cast them into the den of lions.
So now the king, he done found out what happened, right? And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel. And what they do to them?
And they cast them into the den of the lions.
Oh, so those men that accused Daniel, they cast them into the den of lions. Who else did they cast in there? Go ahead.
Them, their children, and their wives, and the lions had the mastery of them.
And the lions had to cast them and the ones that conspired, their wives and their children. They wives and children, what did they do? They was just there. That was it. See, the Lord, when he get you, boy, he get you. He get your wife, your kids, get everybody, the dog, everybody. He said, the king commanded that they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. Them, their children, and their wives, and the lions had mastery of them. Go ahead.
And break all their bones in pieces. Or ever they came at the bottom of the den.
As soon as they hit the bottom of the den, them lions was on them. Now that's really something, isn't it? But you see the king, he fasted for Daniel, he fasted to the Lord, didn't he? And the Lord must have heard him too, because he saved Daniel, didn't he?
Yes, sir.
Let's go now. Let's go to, we ain't got but a few more to go. Let's go to Proverbs, the 26th chapter. Proverbs, the 26th chapter. So how many times a day did Daniel pray? 3 times a day, didn't he? Just like David. So we should be at least praying 3 times a day, shouldn't we? Proverbs 26 and 27. Proverbs 26 and 27. Go ahead. So this is what happened to the old man. Go ahead, 26 and 27. Go ahead.
Whosoever diggeth a pit shall fall therein. And he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him.
See, so you better be careful when you try to do something against the service of God. You understand? Look what happened to those men and their families. You understand? He said, whosoever diggeth a pit falleth therein. So there ain't no, like we used to say, when you dig a hole, man, dig 2. No, just dig 1. Because you're the one going to go in that hole. Remember we used to say that? You dig a pit, dig a ditch, man, you might as well dig 2. 1 for me and 1 for you. No, the Lord said, no, just dig 1. That the one that dig it, that's the one that's going in there. And he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. Now, let's go to Galatians, the 6th chapter. Let's look at this in the New Testament. Galatians 6 and verse 7. Galatians 6 and verse 7. Galatians 6 and verse 7. Go ahead and read it.
Be not deceived. God is not mocked.
Go ahead.
For whosoever a man soweth, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Those men sowed wickedness against Daniel, didn't they? And what they reap? a wicked man's reward.
Yes, sir.
Let's go now. Let's go to Ecclesiastes, the 5th chapter. Ecclesiastes, the 5th chapter. Because men often do this. Make vows to the Lord. We just, we're just touching here and there. We're just touching here and there and looking at this thing that's called prayer and fasting. Ecclesiastes 5:1. Ecclesiastes 5:1. So when you make a vow, you vow it to God. You think you might be vowing to man, but you vowing to God. Ecclesiastes 5:1. Go ahead and read it.
Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God. Be more ready to hear.
Ooh, wait a minute now.
Yes, sir.
You see that? He said, be more ready to hear. When you come to the house of God, he said you're supposed to be more ready to hear. Not a whole lot of chattering going on and stuff, You're supposed to be listening when you come to the house of God. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir.
Keep
thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of food.
Go ahead.
For they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth.
He said, don't be rash with your mouth. You're going about. Because when you're talking to the Lord, you have to use some discretion. You got to be careful what you say to the Lord. Use some discretion. Because some people just say anything out of their mouth to the Lord. I heard a brother one time on the radio he talking to him like he talking to his friend. I was like, no, you better not talk to God like you talking to your friend, because you might get mad at your friend. You get mad at God, he might do something to you. You understand what I'm saying? So you don't talk to God like you talk to your friend. Go ahead and read.
Be not rash with thy mouth. And let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God.
He said, don't let your heart be hasty to utter anything before God. Don't just say anything before God. You got to use some discretion. You understand? You got to have some fear, too, when you come to God, don't you?
Teach.
The fear of the Lord is beginning wisdom. But go ahead and read, though.
For God is in heaven, and thou upon earth.
Go ahead.
Therefore let thy words be few.
Ooh. We all need to take notice of this, don't we? He said, let your words be few. Go ahead and read.
For a dream cometh through the multitude of business. And a fool's voice is known by multitude of words.
You see that guy? We even said ourselves, man, that dude talk too much. Or she talk too much. See what the Lord called him? A fool is known by the multitude of their words. That's why he said, let your words be few. Especially when you're talking to the Lord. Go ahead and read. What verse you at?
4. When thou vow a vow unto God, defer not to pay it.
Go ahead.
For he had no pleasure in food.
Ooh.
Pay that which thou had vowed.
You see that? When thou vows a vow unto God, defer not to pay it. I mean, in other words, you better pay it. For he had no pleasure in food, because you was a fool if you vow to God and you don't pay it. Now this is what Solomon saying here. Go ahead and read.
Verse 5. Better it is that thou should have not vowed than that thou should have vowed and not paid.
Go ahead. Say it's better that you don't vow. Go ahead and read.
Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Neither say thou before the angel.
Because some people run their mouth. Next thing you know, they in trouble. You don't want to do it. You might be able to get away with it with man, but God, now you got a big problem, don't you? Go ahead and read.
Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Neither say thou before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice and destroy the work of thy hands?
Go ahead.
For in the multitude of dreams and many words there are also divers vanities. But fear thou God.
But fear thou God. So you have to use some discretion when you're talking to God, don't you? Say, let your words be few, because you don't want to say nothing wrong. And you sure don't want to talk to God like you're talking to your friend. There is the utmost respect and honor when you come to God, ain't it?
Yes, sir.
Let's go now. Let's give you an example. Let's go to Acts the 5th chapter. We got 2 more after this. Acts 5. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Acts 5 and 1. Acts 5 and 1. We got 2 more after this. Go ahead and read it.
But a certain man, Ananias, with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession, and kept back part of the price.
Go ahead.
His wife also being privy to it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Ghost and to keep back part of the price of the land?
See, so, you know, they had vowed that, you know, when we sell this land, whatever money we get, we're going to give it to you, Peter, and the apostles. But then they kept back part of the money, him and his wife. And you see what Peter said? Why hast thou lied to the Holy Ghost? Go ahead.
And to keep back part of the price of the land. While as it remained, was it not thine own?
You said while it was your own. You know, it was yours to do what you wanted to do with it. But you vowed to God, though. Go ahead and read.
And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power? Why hast thou conceived this thing in thine heart? Thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God.
Oh, you see who they lied to? They thought they were lying to Peter. We're going to trick Peter, you know, we're going to keep back part. Ooh, that's a lot of money we got for this land. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to keep part of it. You understand? Thought they were lying to man, but they were actually lying to who? God. So who they make the vow to? The Lord, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and read.
Verse 5. And Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and gave up the ghost.
Right there on the spot. Lord, they didn't even ask him nothing. He just died right there. Fell down and gave up the ghost. Go ahead.
And great fear came on all.
Now, hold on one second. He gave up the ghost. What did he give up? If he fell down and gave up the ghost, what did he give up? His breath.
Life.
The breath of life. Go ahead and read.
And great fear came on all them that heard these things. And the young men arose, wound him up, and carried him out and buried him.
Go ahead.
And it was about the space of 3 hours after, when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in. And Peter answered unto her, Tell me whether ye sold the land for so much. And she said, Yea, for so much.
Go ahead. See, you know, so she was lying with her husband, right? So Peter said, okay, we're going to give up. We're going to check his wife out now. Tell me whether you sold the land for so much or not. She said, yeah, that's what we sold it for. What happened?
Then Peter said to her, How is it that ye have agreed together to tempt the Spirit of the Lord? Behold, the feet of them which have buried thy husband are at the door, and shall carry thee out.
Go ahead. I know she probably looking around. What you talking about? Carry me out? What? Or she probably was begging. Wait a minute. Too late, because you vowed to the Lord. Don't let your mouth cause you to suffer the sin. Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. Then fell she down straightway at his feet, and yielded up the ghost.
Go ahead.
And the young men came in and found her dead, and carried her forth, buried her by her husband.
Now, so when you vow to the Lord, you pay it. You understand? Defer not to pay it, because the Lord could do you like he did Ananias and Sapphira right here.
Teach.
Let's go now. Let's go to Ephesians.